We've got the reason that Liv Morgan versus Ronda Rousey was cut short at SummerSlam. A returning WWE star has gotten a new name, and Michael Cole has taken a cheeky little shot at Vincent Kennedy McMahon, so stay tuned. SummerSlam was largely a very good night of sports entertainment, but one of the matches that I think a lot of people will agree really did fall flat was Liv Morgan versus Ronda Rousey. It was short.
Yep.
It wasn't so sweet.
No.
Afterwards, we saw the Rousey heel turn that we've been clamoring for. But anyway, going back to the fact that it was so short, there is a reason for that. And it's all down to Logan Paul and The Miz, which was a great match.
It was a very good
frog
match.
splash. Brian Alvarez tweeting, that match had a lot of time cut because Miz and Logan went long. How about we cut some video packages instead of time off matches, which is a fair point. My understanding is that they have those video packages and they've become plentiful in recent months. They have those because of the lower tier Peacock subscribers. They use those to fill what is ad breaks on the Peacock lower tier. So I think that's the reason for that. It's a fair criticism though still. I'm not saying he's wrong or anything. They're frustrating and they're boring most of the time. I think it's a real shame. Miz and Logan was a really fun match. I enjoyed it greatly, but that could have lost 5 minutes or so, couldn't it?
I think so, especially for Liv's first proper title defense on pay-per-view as well.
Yeah.
I think it would have really benefited her to have, really put a bit more of a showing in. Obviously, it's against Rousey, and I assume WWE want to keep her looking strong. And I mean, I feel like she's always going to look strong regardless anyway because she's Ronda Rousey.
Right.
But I don't think it did any favors for Liv, unfortunately. And hopefully we can rectify this and WWE can rectify this going forward. But as you said, it fell flat. And, maybe if it did have 5 more minutes to tell a little bit more of a story
just
or something.
Liv could have got a bit of shine in.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
She could have got some offense.
Yeah.
It wasn't a strong defense first. Proper pay-per-view defense. A big shame. Taking nothing away from any of the matches on the show. And I thought Miz and Logan was really class.
Yeah.
Next up, we saw the return. Well, we saw a few returns actually last night, but we're talking now about Io Shirai, who has been renamed. She came out following an absolute barn burner. The first match on the show, Bianca versus Becky. We saw the return of Bayley, and then aligning themselves seemingly with Bayley, we saw Dakota Kai and Io Shirai. But she's got a new name. You wouldn't know it looking at the Titantron.
No, it was still the old Titantron.
They didn't have time to update that, which makes me think this is a last minute thing, maybe. Who knows? But they have renamed her Io Sky.
Yeah.
But Io now has a Y in it.
Yeah.
Io. It's one of those things. I thought we would see a bit less of this, to be honest, with Triple H in charge. I think they would sort it down in NXT and then it wouldn't happen. But there you go. It'll be a trademark copyright thing.
I suppose it makes more sense in terms of maybe some other ones like Pete Dunne to Butch and Walter to Gunter, because she's the genius of the Sky. So Io Sky kind of makes a little bit of sense there. There's a little, at least there's a little bit of history in terms of the nicknames and everything she's had in the past.
It's not a bad name.
It's
or
not
anything.
a bad name.
It's not a bad name. I was just hoping we'd see less of it.
Yeah.
One interesting detail on this from Fightful, Io Shirai's contract was actually set to expire soon. We've not seen her on telly for ages. There have been no creative plans for her in NXT after she was injured, and then they couldn't confirm after tonight. WWE officials couldn't confirm that a new contract has been signed, but they've said it appears so. Essentially, that you're not going to debut somebody at a pay-per-view.
No, of course, exactly. Of course not.
And then not have something written down. So it's really exciting. It could be, and I'm speaking very early here, if they do it right, that could be like an all-time great faction.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think as well, for a while, I think it was reported that Dakota Kai was doing a lot of SmackDown dark matches, and I think Io Shirai was doing the same as well. And then for them never to get that call up felt weird, especially with the caliber of matches they were having in NXT. You'd have thought that would have been like the natural progression to go there.
A few more details on that. Now you say it. Apparently, it was actually pitched a while ago, according to Fightful, before Dakota was released, and Vince McMahon rejected it. So maybe that's where they were going with those dark matches. This is obviously something that I don't think we would have seen at SummerSlam had it not been for Triple H taking over the creative side of things. I'm very, very glad that we did see it because I think it could be excellent.
It's so exciting, isn't it? Because I think for the longest time, one of the main criticisms about WWE has been about the women's roster recently, in that it feels lacking in terms of sort of credible challenges for Bianca's title and now Liv's title as well. Like, it's nice to see that these people who we've held in high regard for a very long time finally make their way onto the main roster, and hopefully we get to see them shine, because there's a lot of promise with the I say promise, we've already seen how good these women are. Like, we've got a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, it's really exciting. I think a lot of people are feeling very, very excited about the future of WWE who weren't so excited a few weeks ago.
Yeah, definitely.
So grand stuff there. Speaking of Vince McMahon, a cheeky little shot was taken by Michael Cole, of all people, on commentary during SummerSlam yesterday, during Pat McAfee versus Corbin. Graves took note of Cole's change in attitude. Basically, he said, "I liked you better when you weren't allowed to have an opinion," because Michael Cole had been pretty full on.
Yes.
Michael Cole just said back, "That's changed."
He's just standing his boy, Pat McAfee. We were saying on the live stream as well, weren't we? We were like, it must be so difficult for Michael Cole, who's been in this role for so long, to always have Vince McMahon constantly in his ear. And then all of a sudden, 1 week, that's changed. Yeah. In terms of like, oh, am I allowed to say this and that now? It felt very much like he could just go all out, and it was nice to see.
It's really good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Michael Cole is, no joke, one of the best commentators to ever do it. He'll never be recognized as such by the majority of wrestling fans, but he's incredibly good at his job. And the professionalism that he's shown over the years by having Vince McMahon in his ear, overproducing him and making Michael Cole seem like a proper dweeb. I'm not saying he's not a dweeb, he's a bit of a dweeb. making him often the bad guy when really it's not been his fault. We've seen before how good Michael Cole can be. Think back to the UK title tournament when he was doing that stuff.
Absolutely.
How good he is when he's not produced so heavily. And I think tonight was a good example of that as well. Very excited about that too.
Yes.
We're finishing off with some scrapped CM Punk Chris Jericho plans. This is a really interesting story. This is from Talk is Jericho. Chris Jericho sharing an interesting one about plans for himself and Punk in the lead up to WrestleMania 28. And he said that the original plan was to tattoo CM Punk. Chris Jericho was going to tattoo CM Punk. He said the original plan for the opening angle to get that rolling, I was going to tattoo Punk. I was going to do an angle where I'd knock him out and handcuff him to the ring ropes, take a tattoo needle and tattoo my initials onto his body. I get a tattoo artist to show me how it's done and just do like a CJ. Because CM Punk's such he really, really detests Lana, CJ Perry, so it would have really rubbed it in. That's what I assume anyway.
I thought it was GTA San Andreas. Really like CJ from San Andreas.
CJ Demui from Eggheads.
Yeah, there we go.
He's a murderer. Jericho continued, I remember pitching that, and Vince was like, well, who cares? He's got so many tattoos. What difference does it make? And Jericho replied, the difference is I'm tattooing him. And Vince is like, oh, so what? Essentially, Vince gives it the green light, and then he comes back and he says, we're not doing the tattoo thing. And it was because tattoos bleed too much, which is a fair point, but just a little CJ.
Yeah, just a little tiny CJ, right? Nothing too much.
Yeah.
I think that would have been cool. I think that would have really, really been good. What's to say it doesn't happen in AEW, you know?
Yeah, he should have kept that stum, shouldn't he? He should have not mentioned it.
I think with this coming to light now there is kind of like, you know how they sort of like to reference things that are out there in the news world, in the wrestling news world. They kind of like to do that in AEW.
Think they'll be like, hey, we're AEW and we've got the balls to do it.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, I could see it happening on AEW more than I could on WWE. For sure. Like, absolutely.
I hope they don't now he said it, because it would have just been like so good to have never heard about that, and then it just happens.
I want him to do an elaborate portrait of himself on CM Punk.
Like 4 hours.
Yeah.
Massive back piece.
Like
Getting the
Steve.
colour pin. That's the whole pay-per-view. Anyway, that's it from us. We're knackered, obviously. Thank you to everybody who watched the live stream tonight. I'm your new Cultaholic heavyweight champion, obviously. He's dead because I battered him afterwards. He's all right now. And you can join myself and Tom tonight now for Ric Flair's final match, the pay-per-view. We're watching it in its entirety on live stream, so come and join us there if you've got the time. Falling asleep here, Andrew. Also, we've got WTF coming up very shortly. What happened? That's already on the channel. Take care. Good night. God bless. Let's go to bed.
Yay.